But I'm a seller, just like you guys, all right? I have nothing to sell anybody. I'm here to share knowledge. I'm here to share some of my learnings of what my selling journey has done for me, primarily starting on Amazon and now fully moving into what I call social selling. So a little bit about me. I've seen so many presentations, and I think to myself, who is this guy? What are they selling? What's the pitch? What's happening? What's their background? So I always like to start off a presentation of a little bit about who I am. I'm not going to read every one of these lines. I come from a publicly traded company. I spent 15 years there worrying about earnings per share, and finally gave up on that. I started my own company, so I left managing about $125 million, and my first year on my own, I was managing about $400,000 of my own, but the difference was it was all my own money. I was my own credit manager. In 2005, I started selling direct to consumer. So I came from the background when we were all worried about MAP and going to trade shows and two-step distribution and who's going to be the right wholesaler and what are we going to do if they violate MAP. And I said, I just didn't like this. I wanted to sell direct to the consumer. So I started that. I grew that business. I sold that business. I have an inside joke with my wife that when I sold my business, I went to work for the lipstick factory because she made organic skincare. I owned a business that was marine audio. It's a niche, to say the least. She works in a much bigger niche. So I moved on. I sold that business, went to work for my wife's business, and now kind of rolling full forward here in 2025. We have 2 brands. I think we're about $12 million. We're on track to roll that up 40%. My target is about $17.1 million, and that growth is primarily going to come from TikTok. So what I get hit with from a lot of the people here that I've talked to yesterday is like, wow, TikTok sounds like an amazing thing, but how does it work, right? And let's face it, probably everybody in this room, I'd be curious to know, like, by a show of hands, has anybody actually bought anything on TikTok? All right, a couple, okay. But give me another show of hands. Have you ever looked at TikTok? Right. So I'll give you my first case study here, is that when it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm laying in bed, zombie scrolling on TikTok next to my wife who's zombie scrolling on X and wondering if the world's going to be over and that kind of stuff, I'll show her a TikTok and go, man, that looks pretty cool. And she's like, yeah, we should get that. Where does she get it? Probably Amazon, all right? So there's a huge spillover effect here that people need to understand. And this seems like a simple story, but you guys, I could talk for hours about this. So what I've tried to do today is just give you a taste of TikTok and why it should be important to everybody here, okay? So, and I'm going to tell you, I don't have lots of slides, but I have a real framework that you need to understand. So here's what we're talking about. First thing that stands out here is in 2024, 41% of all online sales were Amazon. It's kind of staggering, isn't it? It's freaking tremendous, okay? But in 2024, TikTok, their published numbers for the US market only was 9 billion of GMV. Guys, this is code name for disruptor, okay? I don't talk about this a lot, but I am an advisor to Amazon corporate. I'm also an advisor to TikTok corporate. It's amazing because when I go to Seattle, I hit 2 birds with 1 stone, and guess what? They always want to ask me what the other's working on at the highest levels, okay? What I bring to Amazon and TikTok is a voice of the seller. I was one of the original sellers for Amazon that started their program called Voice of the Seller, where we could go in and tell them how fucked up they were and how they need to make changes, okay? Guess what? TikTok's rolling out the same thing. Okay, so I'm really here today to talk about what is social selling. That's what this is all about. All right, I'm going to segue for a second and tell you I've been asked by 5 people here that have all said, well, hey, Brian, what happens if TikTok goes away? Yeah, okay. I'm an American too. I don't like them having my data. I don't think that's a good thing. But as I've heard many people today say, we're living in an age where everybody's got everybody's data, right? Like, somebody was talking about what you put into ChatGPT, it's probably going to be reharvested back against you. So I really don't take the narrow view, I take the long view, and I say back to people, if TikTok goes away, do you think that social selling is going to go away? Do you think influencers are going to just drop? Because if you tell me yes, I'm going to say you're crazy, all right? Social selling is here to stay, all right? So in this slide, what I like to talk about is that Amazon, to me, is bottom of a funnel, all right? 5 years ago, I would never said that. I would say this is the most important place to grow your brand, get brand exposure, get those eyeballs. I don't say that today. It's the opposite. Amazon's bottom of the funnel. They did not like that when I told them that into their senior management. They were shocked, all right? The opposite is true about TikTok. This is top of funnel, all right? And you can see what I've written here. TikTok's literally eyeballs everywhere. So guys, I'm gonna set you up. Why is that so important? I mean, think about this with me. TikTok is eyeballs everywhere. Okay, we could say, so what? But what I'm gonna say to you is, on the next slide here, this is a visual representation of what TikTok really is all about. So look at what I've got here. Super simple slide. On the top, you've got your business revenue. Some of you are D2C. Some of you are D2C plus retail. Some of you D2C retail and Amazon, okay? There's all these different sales channels that we have. From my history, I came from a single platform. Very little D2C and a lot of Amazon, all right? But kind of a single platform. Scared to death if, what happens if I pull a suspension? What if somebody, turns me in for something that I didn't do? God, what would happen to my business, all right? Those are those scary Amazon things. And so I kind of chuckled when earlier today I heard like, man, you got to get on Amazon. You got to get on Amazon. And I'm thinking to myself, I got to get off Amazon. I got to get D2C. I got to get TikTok moving to D2C and forget those Amazon guys, okay? So it's just really all a matter of perspective, all right? But the big takeaway here is that TikTok's eyeballs everywhere will affect or reinforce or create, it will provide to all these different channels, all right? It's the only channel that can do that. And people don't understand that. They're kind of wrapped up into, my children get their news off of the news cycle of TikTok. It's true, but it's eyeballs everywhere. And so what I want to preach to you guys as a seller is that when you guys wake up and figure out that we are now at the precipice of a new dawn of e-commerce. Man, that sounds fancy, right? It's about TikTok and it's about social selling. That is what's driving business. So when I tell you that I'm going to grow 40% this year, it's because of social selling. It's because of the eyeballs everywhere. TikTok is the only platform that allows me as a nobody seller. I mean, 17 million bucks, so what? All right? It's tiny rounding error. But it lets me compete directly head-to-head with Fortune 500 companies. That's freaking amazing, okay? I was talking to MJ about your wife. She's going viral on TikTok. How does she do that? It's incredible. She's competing with major book publishers. To me, that's a dawn of a new era, okay? So what I really want everybody to think about here, this is a big takeaway, all right? As I told you starting, I'm not here to show you a bunch of fancy TikToks, and man, I'm not talking about AI because it hurts my head, okay? But what I want to show you is a framework or a financial framework that can help your business grow, okay? So the way my mind thinks is, as that brand owner, we've got to look at, well, what levers can we pull? And to me, the biggest point of failure is being only in one channel. We have to be omni-channel. And that answer to me is getting on TikTok and getting those eyeballs to flow over or to support. Here's a very simple story. About 5 years ago, I started strategic advising for brands. And as TikTok started to roll up, this is a supplement company. They were about 25 million. Things are going crazy. They hit 75 million. TikTok was a big part of that. And guess what? Retail reached out to them. They prepared. They used AI to do their slide deck for the for the meeting. And they got the feedback and said, why did you pick us? And they're like, your social presence is everywhere. Man, it just, it totally opened the floodgates for this brand. And I think they went from, that's 3 years ago, I think they're approaching $100 million now. So that was a way they used TikTok and social selling to pivot to retail. Okay, so there's so many ins and outs of this. Everybody in this room, or I should say, I've yet to meet anybody in this room that wouldn't benefit from TikTok. Okay, so enough of the marketing speak. Let's talk about, I want you guys to understand when you leave this, and I'm not keeping track of time. How much time do I have? 15 All right, we're good. So I want everybody, when you're done with TikTok today, I want you to be able to understand, well, what's the framework? How does TikTok work, and how would I launch on TikTok? Okay, I'm going to cover that for you. And I'm going to end this with giving you some resources, because sometimes when I watch this AI stuff, I'm like, oh my God, this looks good, but how can I implement this, okay? So let's talk about the funnel. Visual representation here, all right? We always look at the dollar signs, all right? So we actually, I think as humans, we're programmed to look at the bottom of the funnel. But TikTok's the opposite of that, all right? So at the top of that, you've got awareness. And here's my cheat code. There's no call to actions in awareness. All right? TikTok tells us that they believe that consumers touch a product 5.4 times, I think is what it is, before they buy. So that awareness is at the top of the funnel. All right? A big mistake people make when they try to launch on TikTok is they just want the conversion. So what piece of creative is going to give me a conversion? It's the wrong thinking. Okay? They need to start top of the funnel. The next is consideration. All right? We've all seen creatives that have links to our shops. Don't put links in your shops when you're in the creative aspect. When you're going to retarget people through paid advertising, that's when you're linking. Okay? And when you're running bottom of the funnel, like your best creatives that have gone viral, those are the ones that are going to convert. Those are the ones that are linking. Those are the ones that are affiliates. Okay? That's what's going to lead to sales. So let's look at it the opposite way, okay? And I think this is a really important concept that people don't understand, is as business owners, how many times have, we've been in a room and we got this great marketing idea and we're like, man, how much is this gonna cost? And what is the ROI? What's gonna happen here? How much are we sinking in, okay? This is the way I look at TikTok. I flip that funnel upside down. And I say to you that revenue really equals views times click-through rate times conversion. Think of it that way, like mathematically. So a lot of people, so MJ, I'll go to you on your wife, all right? You shared with me that she had a viral post, okay? It wasn't magic. It really wasn't. People think that this is a TikTok slot machine where we just put creatives in and man, we pull the lever and maybe one of them goes off and bang, we sell all kinds of stuff out. Really, the revenue that she generated was because she got the views, people clicked through it, and people converted.
She used pre-validated content, which basically
yes.
She had a video that she knew already went viral, and she asked that creator if she could repost that on her page. So it was pre-validated content.
There's your awareness, right? So this is a micro example, but what all the companies out there in the world are looking at doing is how do we replicate that? Right? So one of the cheat codes that I give to people is find out what's working and duplicate it. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Duplicate it. It's really that simple. But if you're trying to monetize this and you're trying to look at hey, how many dollars do we have to put out? Your revenue is really your views or your reach. And that CTR is important. Are people clicking through that or are they zombie scrolling? And do they convert? And I won't even begin to tell you how the TikTok algorithm works because everybody that stands up on a stage is a bunch of liars. I don't think anybody knows. I've talked to really smart people. They don't know. But it really comes down to what that view, CTR, and conversion does to unlock more and more and more of that reach and viral. All right? So that's the way TikTok works. I want to shift gears. So when I sit on the other side and I hear these concepts, I'm like, okay, that's great, but tell me how to do it. All right? There's a pretty proven process, and this is what I've done. And I know that this works because I've seen people repeat this. So this is what I call the cold start SOP. Everybody understand what I mean by cold start? It means you're not selling shit on TikTok and you want to learn how to start moving the needle. But your brand is cold, okay? So I want to walk you through this. And there's some good things in here for everybody. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to do a competitive or competition review of who's selling what. And there's some great tools to do that. I posted pictures of two of them. One is called FastMoss, and the other one is called Data. So I could pull that up, and I can put any one of your brands in there, and it's basically scraped TikTok for the last 30, 60, 90, 120 days, and it will give me a pretty good insight to what you sold. It will even go one step further, and it will even show me the influencers or the affiliates that sold that. So I was talking to the, can't remember their name, the diesel guys here at lunch, and they said to me, man, we got to get like a content creator. Get on Data and go find your competition and who's doing the same thing. You don't have to guess, just go find it. So what I'm saying to you is that if hey, we're going to go after cold starting our brand, what we're going to need to do is a little research. So the way I did that research, and I mean, again, I could talk about this for hours, but I jumped on there, I looked at my competitive brands, I looked at who they're using, how many affiliates they're using, how many pieces of content that they're publishing, and how much GMV they've generated. And then I went and said, I'm going to do 20% more of that. And I'm going to use their best creatives, and I'm going to make a brand creative brief, and I'm going to go out and pitch that to my creators. It's really that simple. That's your competition review. So let's go to the next thing. All right, so listing 101. You guys remember I come from the Amazon background, right? I used to go on stage, I'd teach people how to launch, rank, review the SQP data, all that stuff. I hate it. I don't ever want to do it again. But there's some lessons that we can learn from Amazon, all right? And these are kind of my highlights here, is that you could use different pricing models. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But the bottom line is you really do need to make a kick-ass listing. You don't want to keyword stuff. One of the things that I tell people is, hey, reviews are important, but let's think about it. Like in Amazon and even D2C, like those reviews are a moat. But on TikTok, the reviews are really the creatives. That's the reason why I hand the phone to my wife and say we should buy this. Because that is the review. It's the video content. So why not take reviews and put them in your slide deck? It's so basic. But if you look at the brands that are really winning, they plucked out some probably made-up reviews, and they built slides out of them, okay? So what I like to tell people is de-Amazon your title on keyword stuff. Make sure that your image stacks show the obvious things, and be solution-minded, okay? And add reviews to the slide deck. And here's stuff that has come up that not a lot of people know about. So scarcity. Run flash sales. Everybody's heard of maybe a flash sale if we're selling on TikTok? So flash sales automatically run for 3 days. What if we ran it every hour? That might sound like a pain in the ass. The way I do it, I'm not as tricky as Jamie with his AI stuff, but I have my VA in the Philippines wake up every morning and schedule 24 flash sales because they will start and stop every hour, and whoever goes onto my listing via my affiliate network will see that I've got 32 more minutes until this thing raises price. Create scarcity. All right, so let's move on. Social proof and seeding. Remember, we're going back to, we got this great brand, nobody knows about it. How do we launch it? You've got to seed that social proof. Going back a million years in my Amazon days when we all used to cheat at scale and do search, find, buys, and plant reviews and do all this other stuff, I would never, ever suggest anybody do that on Amazon in this day and age because it's express lane to getting knocked off the platform. But TikTok is the Wild West. There's a lot of things that TikTok just doesn't care about, and that's one of them. So go create your buys. Literally, get your friends and family to buy this stuff. If you want an ultimate hack, create a fictitious product for $1,500 so you can have the GMV that you need for the next week's affiliate outreach and sell yourself one, they'll take their 15% commission and you're paying yourself. So there's workarounds for all this stuff, okay? But I'm not here to like talk about hacks. I want to talk about like, you know, how to grow. So what I would recommend, what I put in this slide is you can use services like Celico. They'll do buys for you. They'll do reviews for you. You can use services like Join Brands, which is a friend of mine's SaaS tool, where it connects creators to you. How I use this is I have them just shoot 10 minutes of B-roll, and I ask them to buy it on TikTok and leave me a review. You instantly start. So why is this social proof really important? Here's a big secret that people don't understand. And it's when I explain it to you, everybody's going to go, aha, that was really simple. Nobody wants to buy your product unless other people have bought your product. I don't want to be the pioneer that says your widget is great. But I do want to jump on it if everybody else says that's good. So when you seed these social buys, when consumers go to your listing and it shows that there's 3,000 units sold in the last 30 days, well, it must be good, right? But if it says 0, maybe it's some cheap Chinese stuff that we don't want. Doubt. No conversion. So it also works in a different way, because when you have affiliates, you reach out to these affiliates. They're smart too. They're on Kalo data and Fast Mawson. They're looking up your brand and they're thinking, is this a good brand to work with? They see that data too. There's actually affiliates that all they do is just jump from brand to brand to brand that's trending. No loyalty. They're just looking for what has velocity, how do I get on that, and how do I monetize it? So what we do is we use Join Brands and we seed our own product, okay? And that pro tip that I have there, it's really important, because once you create some initial velocity, then your affiliate outreach gets easier and easier and easier, because they see that and they go, oh, we want to get on this too. So overnight, you go from all these wannabe high school or college girls that want to get on your product and make a buck to professional creators that have $1 million GMV that are like saying, hey, send it overnight. All right, it's like an unlock when you have that. All right. Oh, did I go back? I did, didn't I? Okay, so affiliate outreach. Several people in this room have asked me, like, this all sounds really good, Brian, but how do I find these people? Problem solved. You use a company called Yuka. It's an automation tool. It will segment by audience, by GMV, by language, by sex, by anything that you want to do. It costs about $200 a month. And it will direct message up to 4,000 people a day in their affiliate network and say, hey, we'd love to work with you. Here's a brand brief. Here's our story. We actually include a Loom message because I think that people want to buy from people. So I know this works well because I'm also a creator and I've seen the message they get, and it's usually broken Chinese English. Remember, this is a Chinese platform. So I want to Americanize it. So have my wife shoot something from the owner and say, hey, we would like to work with you. We're a made in America manufacturer, and we're a little bit different. But we do use that tool. Okay, so getting into this now, like you can see, we went through our competitive review, our listing, our social seeding, all this stuff. We're reaching for affiliates. What we've got to do is we've got to be really aggressive. Now, people freak out when they read, like, Brian said that we should do 50% commissions to start. That's expensive. And my response to that is, yes, so is Google advertising and meta spend. So what if we just did the dollars and cents here and we drove a little bit of that meta spend away from meta and we gave it to creators to boost our brand? Let's put the power of the money in the people's pockets that are going to get behind your brand. So what we do is we could come right out of the gate and say, hey, we want to stand out. We'd like you to do this video. We're going to send you this sample. We're going to pay you 50%. Sounds pretty good. Well, because your email box is littered with probably 1,000 emails from 1,000 other brands that says we're going to pay you 10% and we want to, be hard to work with. Those guys go to waste. I go to the top because I'm going to pay a bunch of money. But we kind of cheat them, because if we can get people to get behind us like that and cold start our product, once we start really seeing that product move and we start putting paid ads behind it, we knock the commission down from 50 to 5%. And we have had some people come to us and say, hey, like, you're stealing from us. But you have to have a financial conversation with them and tell them, hey, look, we're actually driving traffic to you, and you're just along for the ride, all right? But that's how we do it. So again, when people have asked me, how do we do this? This is the tactical part. So I'm a believer in life is all about two things, strategy and tactics. We can talk strategy, but at the end of the day, you have to do the tactics. I grew up a scuba diver, and we always used to say, plan your dive, dive your plan. If you don't, you're dead. All right, think about it. It's the same thing here. So what we have to do is we got to get it off the ground. We got to get our cold start shop to be activated. And when you go through these processes, that's going to happen. Okay, so let's go on. The last thing, paid ads. Here's the newsflash. It's been interesting to me to see the back-end guys at Miva talk and have so much excitement about what's happening behind the scenes and how they're changing things and how search is happening. And it's been interesting to me, the whole multi-domain things, really cool stuff that Miva's doing. Whoever's behind TikTok, their paid ads team, their dev team is amazing. It makes Amazon advertising and Meta advertising look like a joke. You can segment so many different ways. You can create special creatives for bottom of the funnel. You can retarget to people based on languages. Like, it's insane. They can show you the trending languages per post, and it just goes on and on and on and on, okay? So people say, okay, well, what do we do with paid ads? There's your SOP. And Rob, are we giving these slide decks to people? Okay, so that's why I kind of made it so wordy, because I think everybody's going to come here and see things. It's 4 o'clock. Everybody's tired. You're not going to remember shit. So go back to the slide deck, and you're going to have the SOP here. So really, what I tell people when they start on TikTok, just start with shop ads. We could talk an hour for different ads, but a shop ad just drives to, I type in, like one of my best sellers is don't do meth in the bathroom candle. It's a candle that we make, all right? We make it in Portland, Oregon. And if you type that in, we'll run a shop ad to that search term, okay? Super simple, guys, all right? You don't have to do all the crazy fancy retargeting and stuff that I was just talking about. Just run shop ads. So when people get on your trending keywords or your search terms, kind of like the Amazon world, they'll find your product. That's where you should start. But people kind of want to go too fast, all right? So they're like, well, if I can do shop ads, could I do GMV? And what about the spark codes? And blah, 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 blah. It gets really carried away. So this is kind of the progression here. And so just going down through this, you're only going to want to move to GMV max ads when you have enough creatives. That's another big mistake people make. So like, MJ, when your wife's talking about this stuff and she said, hey, could I run ads? The first question I ask you is, how many creatives does she got? Don't do it if you don't got the creatives, because it's just going to make everything super expensive, all right? Then graduate away from the GMV max ads when you really want to drill down and get out of the, I call it the super auto campaigns is what GMV max is in the Amazon world, right? And then really start burrowing down to which creatives are working and get the spark codes and this kind of stuff. But here's another little sneaky thing. I know a lot of advanced sellers don't understand this. They turn on GMV Max, which is like a super auto campaign, and they say, man, it's going really good. And then like one day I woke up and it's like, it spent my whole budget and it's hardly selling anything. Well, guess what? GMV Max gets worn out. You need to switch every couple of weeks from GMV Max back over to your Spark Code ads, and it kind of reignites that tunnel. It reteaches the algorithm. So for those of you that you are doing that, you really need to flip-flop back and forth. And my super important pro tip there, people ask me, when should I start running ads? It's really simple, guys. If a creative sold something, put ad spend behind it. I'm not saying $1,000 a day, but put 20 bucks on it. Scale it up. That's what we've done. Okay. All right, so this is more for later, okay? I'm not going to go through every single one of these things. These are the mistakes people make, all right? It's pretty obvious. You guys are a lot of big catalog sellers. So what I would tell you guys is start with your hero products, all right? My measly candle brand has 126 SKUs on it, and we thought, we got to put them all on TikTok. And that was a big pain in the ass to do that. We really should have just started with a few of them. Even if you put your whole catalog onto TikTok shops, focus on your hero products. That's a mistake I've personally made, okay? The other one is going too slow or actually going too fast on your launch is no good, okay? So what I see people is they go too slow on their launch and they get stingy and they offer low commissions and they're like, man, none of these creators want to do our product are like, all doing our competition and we don't know why. That's why, okay? And the other one's really important too, which is not leveraging all three sources of traffic. And I broke it out here, borrowed, paid, and branded. Those are your sources of traffic. So branded is your own content, okay? Ads is ads, that's paid stuff, all right? And affiliates is borrowed traffic. A lot of times people only do one of those. So they're like, we don't know how to get affiliates, so we're just gonna run ads, and we still have yet to post anything on our own content page. It's very real, man, that people think like this, right? So if you're gonna go at this and you are gonna put eyeballs on all areas of your business, that's how you need to do it, is all three sources of those. And so the last thing too is like, look at what I wrote there about the first, 10th, and 50th sale. This is where we're getting into the way the algorithm works. Okay, people also don't understand, like, why did somebody sell so much and another person didn't sell anything? It's because they're getting traction, and the more traction they get, the more eyeballs they get, and the more eyeballs they get, the more click-through they get, and the more click-through they get, the more conversion they get. And that's how the algorithm rewards brands. But if you just kind of out of the gate and say, we got 2 sales, like, you're dead, okay? So that's really, I wrote that for your teams, and hopefully they can get some value out of that. My last slide is resources, okay? So you guys are probably going to be sitting in this room and say, man, that sounds really good, but I don't know how I would do that, or I don't have time to do that. The QR code on the left is a mastermind that I started 6-7 months ago. It's a closed mastermind. The only way you get in it is if somebody nominates you. If it's created for brands. We have about 82 brands in the group, and we work with each other. We share our wins. We share our losses. We sign NDAs, so we don't talk about it outside of our group. All right? It's brands helping brands. That's my group. The other one everybody asks me for is like, hey man, I'm not a do-it-yourself guy. This sounds really good. Who do I hire to do this? I constantly get asked who is a good agency. Ripplehouse is a good agency, and there's a couple of other ones, but I figured, okay, if you want to attack this stuff and you need a full-service agency, you contact them.